Previously on the Beam Chronicles.
Hey, if you're looking at our marriage for recipes, prepare to blow up your kitchen.
I call it the catch.
He tossed the pen into the top of the cylinder and it fell about halfway down before bobbing back up to the center of the tube.
We just gotta get the dragonfly safely into the catches before the artillery comes out and we're golden.
For the greater good. For the demise of Beam, I had to compromise, but the ends justified the means.
Did they? You could have killed hundreds of thousands of people.
To save millions, Jaxon.
Can you even comprehend the damage you would have done were it not for Beam?
Are you all right?
I'm fine.
Liar.
I hated December 28th, the 2-year anniversary of the day she left me behind.
Everyone in the world needs to believe that you are dead. And in exchange, I will rewrite all of the contracts with me to expire in 2 years.
These are the Beam Chronicles, with your host, MJ Dooney. Book 3, Cataclysm. Chapter 2, Jaxon Teaque.
It had been a week since Murphy's retirement. 1 week as head of Beam, and you'd expect there'd be some sort of story to tell about it, but we pretty much did nothing. 3 equalizers quit, and 2 parents brought their kids in to test what they considered to be anomalistic capacities. The first was a false alarm, the second actually was an anomaly, but his mutation was genetic, and we'd seen it before. Some equalizer designated them to the appropriate room in medical, and he got vaccinated before he even manifested fully. That was the biggest event of the week. Nobody died. Nobody ever died anymore. And hey, not that I'd complain about that, but it did tend to make things a little boring. I still had to fulfill logistical duties or smile for cameras. But without the murder and action, I had to find new ways to occupy my time. My first impulse was to occupy that time with chronic substance abuse, but I'd found some nicer alternatives to that. One of the things I did was hone my telekinesis, and the best way I did it was using this odd stuff Phil invented. He called it Teaque fluid, but I hated when he named things after me. Essentially, it was a charcoal gray liquid in its natural state, and stayed that way until I applied a very specific sort of manipulation via telekinesis, at which point it turned neon yellow, hard and sharp. He developed it as a versatile weapon for me, since in liquid form it was perfectly malleable and mostly harmless, just tended to leave a chalky residue. But in solid form, which only I could activate, the possibilities were limitless. I could morph the Teaque fluid into whatever shape I wanted, solidify it and use it as a weapon or a platform or whatever, then return it to liquid. It probably would have been super useful in a fight, but I never actually got the opportunity. I guess it was too difficult to synthesize, so until very recently, Phil had no time to get me an adequate stock. These days, time was all we had, and as such, there was a small vat of it just sitting in the arena. I used it almost daily for meditation and practice. I'd grab a big glob of it, start rotating it around my body, then split it, and repeat as many times as I could. 1 became 2, then 4, then 8. Eventually, there'd be millions of them. These tiny globules of gray goop soaring around my hovering body like a thin mist until I'd halt them, split them all in half, reestablish the chaotic yet precise rotation. I'd found manipulating that many objects at once required me to be outside of myself, intensely focused, but on anything except the task at hand. The Teaque interaction probably operated at a rate faster than my consciousness could process, but if I left it up to instinct, kept it fuzzy like a dream or a dance, this odd contradiction of restrained freedom, structured madness, there was no limit to how far I could bifurcate the Teaque fluid. In a lot of ways, it reminded me of Flurry, which I guess is partially why I did it, to get closer to Charlie, to feel the things she once felt. Yeah, it was also to push the limits of my abilities, test the old boundaries for self-reflection and meditation and personal improvement, but I'd be lying if I said it had nothing to do with her. Hell, everything had to do with her. The arena was once a sanctuary. One of the few places in my life I could go to escape it all, forget what I was and what I did, focus on the people who were most important. It was private and special. Only Charlie, Sydney, and me and their triumvirate exclusively. And even when we were punching the hell out of each other, we enjoyed the company too much to care about anything. We could pretend we were all there was. If only for short spurts scattered throughout the week, it was safe and warm. An oasis in a desert of Vile, it was home. After she died, it became a graveyard. That grim, dark reminder that now, even this room was no diversion, that my family, my perfect slice of happiness, cut from the violent filth, had been massacred, butchered, torn asunder, just like everything else. The glorious refuge had dissipated, and what remained was a harrowing shadow, a dim specter of how bright the best parts of my life once shined. But now I guess the arena was somewhere in the middle. Most of that had to do with me getting better, striking a balance in all facets of life, not the room itself changing. It was still the same place that was once my haven, and it still possessed that excruciating loneliness after her death, but I found my serenity in the intimacy of that loneliness. I couldn't escape the world anymore, no matter where I went, but I could spend hours meditating and splitting Teaque fluid, separating myself from reality, improving myself and honing my skills and relaxing. The arena granted me the therapeutic opportunity to kill time without self-destructing. It was a gift I couldn't downplay the value of, and in a sense, it was still kind of a special room. It was still just mine and Sydney's.
On guard, brother.
I opened my eyes and peered through the dense layer of particulate Teaque fluid at him, smirking and holding up his fists, rocking back on his heels, prepared to defend against the onslaught. The rotation abruptly halted, and all of the bits of fluid scattered about me briskly amalgamated into 10 to 15 neon yellow bricks. The first one, he slammed his fist straight through, busting it in half as it returned to gray liquid form. After that, he was a bit of a blur, the way he jump kicked and backhanded them, flipping and spinning acrobatically, comboing blows and avoiding my attack without so much as a scuff. He instinctively fired a shot of K-Pack at one brick, on course for impact with his head, then instantly a look of guilt splashed over him. Dissolving Teaque fluid was a good way to avoid getting hit, but the stuff was tough to create. Phil had made a general request against destroying it in skirmishes. I took advantage of his temporary, regretful paralysis to strike him under the chin with the last brick, sending him skyward with a deep bellow. He landed on his ass, skidding away from me as I collected the remnants of my assault, returned them to the vat in the corner.
Good hit.
Sydney groaned, wiggling his jaw and making his way back up to his feet. Yeah, you alright? I distractedly asked, picking the tiny flecks of Teaque fluid out of my lengthy beard that kept promising Maria I'd shave. He scoffed at me, offended by the very notion that I could cause him any permanent damage, especially holding back the way I did in skirmishes.
I am fine. Are you all right?
I smiled, answering the question he asked me daily the way I always did. I'm fine.
Liar.
Right on cue.
By the way, thank you for the note.
He uncrumpled from his pocket the piece of paper I'd posted to my door earlier that day, telling him where he could find me. Yeah, and thank you for not scrambling the jets when I wasn't the very first place you looked for me.
Tease me all you would like, my friend. I have misplaced you too many times with too many terrible consequences not to be perfectly cautious.
Sydney was overbearing, emphatic, and incessant in his protection of me these days, but I allowed it without question. All because of this one look he gave me practically a year ago, when he discovered how badly he'd failed me. It was a look that in a lot of ways saved my life, or at least reminded me that it was worth something. Sid was always an odd sort of guy, and as such, he didn't really know how to cope with a loss as earth-shattering as Charlie. To be fair, nobody knows how to do that, and he tackled it in a much healthier way than I did, to say the least. After she died, Sydney devoted himself to making sure I was alright. So during my first month of extreme denial, a month I spent scouring the globe for any trace of her, Sydney helped me the best way he knew how, covering everything else so I could enthrall myself and then search. He took on Ava's meager caseload entirely, shinied up his skills with handling the press and the public. He became our new face, picked up my obligations there, even chipped in with my search when he could. Once I gave that up, he kept going, kept covering all of my responsibilities, giving me all the time and space and freedom I needed to grieve. Never once during that year of pulling double duty did he insinuate to me that it was too much, that I needed to whip myself into shape because he was tired or overwhelmed. He didn't complain, didn't gripe, just shifted his focus to me, gave me everything I needed to cope. Sydney thought he was helping me. When I asked him to bring me beer because I was too tired to get it myself, he got it for me because he thought it was helping me. When I told him I needed to be alone to think, he granted me my privacy, days of it, because he thought he was helping me. When I told him not to tell Howie or Murphy or anybody that I was just drinking and sitting in bed all day, he promised to keep it a secret because he thought he was helping me. And when he asked me every time he saw me if I was all right, I'd lie to him and he'd believe me. He'd trust me. Then he'd tell me he loved me and I'd ignore him. After a year of mysterious disappearances and constant inebriation, Maria came back and dug out the truth. She forced me to tell him that I'd been fooling him all along, that I was so far from all right, that I was drowning and suffering. That's when he gave me the look. His face when he realized that, in spite of his best efforts to hold me up, I was slipping downward, that he wasn't saving me, he wasn't helping me, he wasn't taking care of his shattered best friend. He was just sitting feebly by while I sunk to the profoundest depths of empty despair. It was almost like he knew all along. Like he knew the whole time in the back of his mind that he was failing me. I think he felt betrayed that I didn't tell him sooner, that I would so openly lie about him keeping me afloat. Yeah, but also maybe more so, he felt betrayed that it was Maria and not him that finally got me to admit I wasn't okay. I think more than anything, he was mad at me for even trying to do it alone. After that, they wouldn't let me. I always had somebody with me. Maria and Murphy, occasionally Phil, split the days, but Sydney took every night. And I didn't stop drinking, at least not right away, because Caraway insisted I had to choose to give it up, and this pissed off Sydney, but in spite of his ire, he'd sit with me, drunk and stupid, following me around when I started meandering about the building, watching me until I passed out, then sleeping in whatever room that happened to be in. When I finally quit almost 2 months later, he helped me pour it out. And the first time I relapsed, he thoroughly kicked my ass. After I got real, truly dedicated to sobriety, he made me talk to him, even when I didn't want to, even when it only made us argue with each other. Are you all right? I'm fine. Liar. It was our chorus, and more effective at making me open up than you'd think. I also made myself a promise that when he reminded me he loved me, I wouldn't dare ignore him. I said it back every time, because I did love him, and he deserved to know it. They all deserved better than me. I don't know where I'd be without them, but with them, I was almost whole again, still here. That was something. My family saved my life, even if I didn't want to save it. There was nothing I wouldn't do to repay them. Hell, I even married one of them.
I spoke to your wife just a bit ago, Jaxon.
Sydney informed me as we strode through the lobby, practically vacant after years of being constantly bustling with traffic.
She has gone home early today.
Oh yeah, what for? I tried to feign more interest than I actually had.
You know how she is. Focuses on tedious tasks better when she is perfectly alone. It is hard to unravel the mess of Murphy's organizational strategies and run the equalizations department simultaneously, even for someone as sharp as her, even given our relaxed responsibilities these days.
Yeah, somebody so detail-oriented really stepped into her worst nightmare, inheriting Murphy's mess.
Perhaps she could use some company tonight,
he suggested as we stepped out the door into the courtyard. Nice, said, super inconspicuous.
I was not intending to be inconspicuous.
I don't think it counts as a genuine act of compassion if I go home tonight because you told me she wanted me to.
I never said that she...
Sydney. He halted his protest, which only meant I'd correctly guessed the source of his idea. Besides, you know I can't sleep in that house.
Your house?
Yeah, my house.
Did you sleep in your apartment last night?
No. Maybe an hour. But all the more reason I should sleep in Charlie's tonight.
I do not follow the logic.
Because I'm sleep deprived, dude. For my sanity, my health, I need to alternate the days where I try to break the dependency with days where I actually get sleep.
Why then on the days where you elect to try to break your dependency, do you not sleep in your house with your wife?
Oh, don't make me answer that, Sydney, not out loud. He didn't get the opportunity to keep trying to convince me.
Holy shit, about damn time the two of you showed up.
Phil urgently assaulted us when we got within earshot.
Freezing my nips off out here. You were supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. What the hell took you so long?
I run this entire building, you little shit.
Right.
Phil snorted, waving away my concern.
Like that actually requires any effort whatsoever. I've been here longer than you. I know how this place runs. You can't fool me, Teaque.
Good afternoon, Mr. Teaque. Mr. Kovorsky.
Phil's partner greeted us sweetly.
Thank you very much for your time.
The scrawny man wore tiny circular dark sunglasses covering his eyes so we couldn't see them, all to prevent his debilitating stutter, and had two incredibly realistic robotic limbs attached to his trunk. Good to see you, Fly. I greeted him back, patting him on the shoulder. By the way, Jaxon is fine for the millionth time.
In that case, I would like to insist on Enzo as well. I think in my effort to leave the past in the past, that epithet, well, it does me no favors.
Of course. I knew that. My bad, Enzo.
It is no trouble, Jaxon. Thank you for your understanding.
Did you hear that, Phil?
Sydney smirked, nudging his brother.
Enzo knows how to treat his superiors.
Yeah, well, if I were technically your prisoner, I'd kiss your asses too.
It was true. Fly hadn't yet to serve the lengthy sentence he'd been given in the dungeons, but for the past 6 months was permitted temporary parole every day to work with Phil and RT. We were secretly grooming Enzo to replace Phil, who after Murphy retired was on schedule to be the next person to leave Beam. It made sense any way you looked at it. We paid him well enough, but the guy supplied the country with like 85% of its energy these days, not to mention technology and innovation. Truly, he should have owned the world, but he was too gentle of a person, subjugated from childhood, never got a chance to do it. Now that Howie was placated off in the White House and it was my show to run, who was I to deprive him of his right to make his own way? Phil had big ambitions for such a little guy, and a lot of good fortune owed to him. Sure, I'd miss him day to day, but in time we'd all abandon this sinking ship. Sid and I were just the captains, shepherding people out of the fire slowly as we tied off the loose ends. Murph was free. It was Phil's turn next. But we had to provide a replacement, and in spite of our rocky history, Enzo had emerged as the perfect choice. He was broken down by his time in the dungeon, his ideology shattered, and all he wanted was another shot, a chance to redeem himself to the world. And hell, he was certainly qualified for the position in terms of raw intelligence. In a way, I liked it for the symbolism more than anything else, passing the torch to an old enemy, the dawn of a new age of recovery, forgiveness, and growth. He was as good as hired in my book, but it wasn't technically my say. I needed approval from the president to make the hire, and I had a meeting scheduled at the White House tomorrow to discuss this very thing. It was also December 28th tomorrow. So maybe I also made that meeting to keep me from thinking too much about the 2-year anniversary of the worst day of my life.
You guys remember the catches, right?
Phil asked, distractedly patting the large cylindrical apparatus as he walked past, staring at his laptop and poking keys with his chin. I did. The catch was Phil's big invention from a few years ago, right after he'd met me, the first of many that utilized the Teaque interaction. It suspended falling objects midair, essentially catching them, hence the name, but I hardly recognized it anymore. This one looked different from catches of yore. It had some sort of attachment bolted around the mouth of the thick plastic tube, like an upside-down funnel, and some wheel-like cranky gizmo attached to the bottom that looked like it permitted the whole thing to be tilted up or down.
The last time we were in this clearing with one of these contraptions, we were pulling dragonfly drones out of the sky, and you were trying to nuke the East Coast.
Sydney commented to Enzo with a good-natured smirk.
An unfortunate transgression, I'll admit.
Enzo grumbled, clearly embarrassed by Sid's reminder.
But fear not, there will be no attack today, at least not of my doing.
Hey!
Phil hopped back into view, kicking a coffee can across the grass to Enzo's feet.
Fear not? That's on the banned nerd phrase list. Drop $1, buddy.
Enzo had several things he wasn't allowed to say. Before we handed him actual authority, we did have to make sure he was over the whole hero kick.
You do realize that considering my incarceration, I don't have a source of income, right?
Enzo snapped, reaching into his pocket and fishing out some quarters.
This is all money you've loaned me anyway.
I don't care. We're gonna quash this dramatic bravado bullshit even if I have to rob you blind in the process.
You mean rob yourself blind?
What's with all the attachments, Phil? This doesn't look like the catches I remember.
Because it's not.
He exclaimed, slamming himself to the grass and frantically typing into his computer. He tugged his shirt over the back of his head, exposing his chloroplastic skin to the sun, then shivered and rubbed his arms. I quickly teaked some warm air from inside the building and held it in a bubble around his and Skeleton's body, the same way I automatically did for myself. Sydney didn't get cold, his skin was too thick. Phil didn't even seem to notice the sudden increase in temperature.
So, Enzo beefed this bad boy up. Like, I won't bother explaining it to you because I know you don't care, but let's just say he multiplied the output on it by a factor of 20-something with no more extra required energy than the old ones.
He flung his arm out, snatched the cord, and jammed it into his belly button. The catch rotated around, then tipped downward so that the slender aperture at the top pointed into the distance like a cannon.
Basically, at this point, it's not even a catch anymore.
What does that mean?
It's a throw now.
Enzo smugly explained, scooping a football off of the ground with his lower right arm, tossing it to his upper left, and loading it into the barrel.
We are clear to fire, Phil.
And Phil, excitedly biting his tongue, rubbed his hands together before mashing one last button on his keyboard. The football was jettisoned out of the throw nearly 500 yards away, where it bounced around for a while until settling safely on the grass.
I am going to catch the next one.
Sydney declared mostly to himself, then began sprinting away in the direction the throw was pointed. Guys, this is awesome. What are the limits? How far does it launch? How fast?
Forever. We put a bowling ball into orbit 2 days ago. We're tracking it. It still hasn't landed. Beam has an unofficial space program now. It's so cool, right?
He pressed the button again, launching another football across the field, and we shielded our eyes from the sun, squinting into distance to see Sydney leap at the precise moment to catch it with one hand, then extend it triumphantly above his head once he landed, to our uproarious cheers. It's an impressive piece of tech, I admitted once the clapping died away. But, what did you call us down here for? Phil scratched the back of his neck, scrunching up his mouth.
For, what Sydney's doing right now.
Huh?
Come on, boss. We both know you're not exactly swamped these days. I'm almost out of this place. I just wanted to, hang out. Play some catch and be idiots.
Seriously?
Look, if it's a bad idea, if you got stuff.
No. I insisted, grinning into the distance at Sydney, still doing flips in celebration of his catch. That actually sounds absolutely spectacular right now. Keep your comm on, in case something comes up, obviously, but yeah, hell. I'm always up for a little dumb fun these days. Thank you, Phil. Really. I nodded sincerely to him and he shrugged, sheepishly. So I spared him his embarrassment, bolted off towards Sydney. I had barely even landed before Phil shot off another ball.
Rules.
Sydney exclaimed, head tilted up to focus on the incoming projectile as he stiff-armed me from obstructing him.
No moving the ball, no moving me. You must start with both feet on the ground.
Deal? I agreed, just as we both took off to catch the incoming pass. I totally had positioning on him, but before he even got a shot at muscling me out of the way, Fly swooped in and snatched it, landing behind us as we turned and watched him in surprise.
I hope you don't mind if I join in.
He smiled, spinning the ball on the finger of his lower left arm, and then turned around for a quick demonstration. We watched the big insect wings impressively and quickly fold up into the slender black case strapped on his back. Then, just as quickly as they were gone, they popped right back out.
Phil and I have made some improvements to my flight deck, only for recreational purposes, of course.
But that one did not count.
Sydney declared, uninterested in Enzo's wings when we had a game to play.
You must start with both feet on the ground. Just like me and Jaxon, I simply will not participate in a catching contest as the only competitor without the advantage of flight.
Incoming! We played for hours. Several beautiful, flawless hours where the biggest source of conflict was them accusing me of distorting the ball's trajectory or moving them out of line for a catch, while I insisted that I hadn't. Occasional, minor, friendly cheating was the worst sin of the day. Nobody was dying, nobody was killing, nobody was threatening to enact their revenge or torture us for our insolence. It was simple, meaningless fun. Playing cannon football with my two best friends and my former arch nemesis. We didn't quit until the sun went down and the crisp December air got too cold for me to telekinetically hold bubbles of warmth around us with any level of efficiency. And once we called it a game and Enzo jetted away to help Phil pack up, I stood momentarily still beside Sydney, catching my breath. She would have loved this, you know. Every time something good happened to me, I'd remember how unfair it was that she had to miss it, and then it would melt. I hated how lame it was, how pathetic and stupid I felt for thinking it, but the very fact that it could have been so much better if Charlie were alive, it eclipsed all of my fun entirely. Today was precisely where I wanted to get for years. Ever since the day I found out I was an anomaly, it was everything I'd always been striving toward, everything I'd hoped for, my most unreasonable prayers, safe, harmless, good times, perfect bliss. But damn, it was missing something so crucial. It was so very close to my happy ending and simultaneously not close at all.
She would have caught every single ball. It would not have been much fun.
I don't care.
Me neither, my friend.
He wrapped his arm around me as we shuffled back toward Phil, impatiently waving us down to help him carry his equipment.
Are you all right?
I'm fine.
Liar.
I actually did wind up going home that night after all, to spend time with Maria. Maybe it was the lingering good spirits of a day spent with friends, maybe it was the fact Sydney asked me to directly, maybe it was because our house was closer to the White House than HQ was and I had a meeting there tomorrow, or maybe I just couldn't stand the notion of waking up in Charlie's bed on the day that she died. I like to think part of it for once was actually not about me at all, with Phil having one foot over the threshold now, a frivolous Howie signature away from freedom. Maria was the next person we had to toss into a lifeboat and push out to sea, but in order to do that, I had to make an effort to fix our disjointed partnership. That was the key to getting her to leave eventually, giving her something else she'd want instead. And a happy, steady life with me was the only thing Caraway wanted anymore. Not Caraway, Maria. I had to be careful not to do that out loud. When I stepped through the door, my legs were assaulted by Maria's cat, the most godforsaken creature I'd ever met. She was also the ugliest, uglier than Leper, the guy who wore a rotting skull over his head. Nasty Cat was not her real name, but I didn't care to remember that. Was repulsive, old, and matted, shaggy and gray. She was destructive, scratching things, coughing up stuff all over the house, pissing in corners, and on top of it all, she had this uncanny knack for basically only showing affection during the least opportune moments and being an utterly standoffish asshole whenever I wanted to be sweet to her. Nasty Cat hated everything. I'm pretty sure she even hated Maria, but Maria loved her, true to her tendency of adoring unworthy wretches. Noting our common ground there, I crouched down to pet Nasty, in spite of all history indicating this was a good way to get clawed to death. She seemed to be in a borderline pleasant and amicable mood. Naturally, this changed quickly. And the fur on her back stood up straight as she hissed, batted my hand, and darted up the stairs. I shook my head as I got up to my feet. Hated that thing. In a weird kind of way, though, I appreciated how she was so predictably rude to me. So honest and brash, Nasty Cat could care less that I was vacantly going through the motions, the unshaven drunk stumbling back to his feet. Sometimes I wished other people would treat me that way. When I got into the living room, Maria spun around on the couch to face me, and her eyes lit up, which twisted my guts.
Jaxon? What are you doing here?
She asked, grinning ear to ear, so excited to see her own husband in her own home. I smiled, then leaned over, kissed the top of her head. Sydney told me you've been lonely.
Sid, I told him not to bother you about me.
It's not a bother, Maria. I'm glad he told me. Besides, this is technically my house, even if I'm never here. Don't act surprised when I walk in.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Sorry.
By the way, did you eat yet? I'm starving.
I did. Sorry again. Chinese in the fridge if you want my leftovers.
One definite thing I didn't miss about Charlie was the way she used to make me eat. Lo mein noodles were a little too off in all nutritional categories for her liking, and if she ever saw me eating something that she didn't consider healthy, which was literally everything good. She'd knock it out of my hands and replace it with fruit. I guess that insistence probably would have been useful back in my drunker days. And I'd drink a million wheatgrass smoothies if it meant she was around to berate my unhealthy choices one more time. But no, I wasn't thinking about Charlie. Not tonight. I grabbed Maria's leftovers from the fridge, tossed them in the microwave, then went into the living room and flopped on the couch, laying my head across her lap. She snickered, lifting the paperwork she was reading over her head to avoid me.
You mind?
No.
Well, whatever. I can't keep things organized enough to make any progress on this anyway.
She tossed the pages in her hands back onto the jumbled up mess across the coffee table.
I'm too spatially limited. I don't know how the hell Beam stayed afloat when Murphy's organizational system was literally what you see before you. I don't think he even understands chronological order, or alphabetical, or hell, I guess any kind of order at all. He's got eval forms, mixed with debriefing reports, mixed with insurance information. I found 2 of his grocery lists in here. These 2 pages are stapled together. One of them's from this September, the other one's from 6 years ago.
Hey, let me help. I'm a solid remedy to spatial limitations. I can turn the whole room into a filing cabinet if you want.
Yeah? You want to do that with your free time?
Sure, if it helps you, just throw them up. Tell me where to put them. I'll keep them straight.
Can you do that? There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I got this weird, telekinetic memory thing going on these days. I think the Teaque interaction moves faster than my brain can process, but I found I can juggle a few hundred tasks at once if I leave it up to instinct and keep my mind out of it. Kind of like, flurrying. I wanted to say it, but then I was making an effort not to talk about Charlie tonight. Speed reading. Don't get lost in the words or the letters. You cruise through the book. Good enough. She smiled.
Well, all right then. At least we'll get something done faster than I was going anyway.
We did it for quite a bit longer than you'd expect to be entertaining. She'd leaf through a stack of pages, tell me what category to put them in, give me a date, and I'd pull the corresponding pile out of orbit, around our heads, file it appropriately just as she handed me the next page off the stack. Occasionally, we'd get stuck on a particular sheet of paper, something that reminded us of a funny story or a meaningful case, anomalies we thought were interesting or could have ended the world. And other than the telekinetic aspects, other than the fact that all of the fond reminiscence was over literal murders, we could have walked into that room and seen 2 normal people in a functional, happy relationship. You might have even said we were in love. Hell, for some solid stretches, minutes at a time, I practically forgot about Charlie. This was good. Little things like this were exactly what Maria and I needed to heal. At some point in the middle of a streak of uninteresting pages, I flipped on the TV. I still remembered the first time I turned on the TV to find myself on it, how surreal yet kind of cool it was. Now it's just exhausting and tedious, especially this stupid exclusive special on me and the origin of my scars. Produced, directed, narrated, and utterly fabricated by Peter Cranston as his last gift to Beam before moving up the ladder. A necessary creation once I came back to the team and people started noticing how carved up I was. Maria glanced at the television distractedly.
This again?
She scrunched up her mouth, tossing another stack of tax forms that I moved into the pile near the door, in the chronologically correct position. I know, how often are they going to show this trash?
How often are you gonna watch this trash?
I didn't answer her, so she tried to answer me.
You can't blame them for milking what they have. People are starving for some narrative out of Ava, Jaxon. You guys have gone ghost since Peter took his White House position. Aside from this special and our wedding, you haven't given them anything juicy in practically a year.
They can suck fumes for a while as far as I'm concerned. And we were only interesting when we were busting people. It's not our fault anomalies don't fight back anymore.
Except it kind of is your fault.
Well, yeah, I guess good point. A few minutes and several hundred organized pages later, the special began talking about the circular scar on my chest. How a large mutant lamprey anomaly latched onto me, and for all my strength, I couldn't yank him off until Sydney assisted me with K-Pack. Such bullshit.
What is? Eval forms, March of 3 years ago, by the way.
I filed it instinctively as I answered her question. You'd think a single witness would pipe up and tell everyone that I wasn't even part of that bust. Sydney got that guy solo, and it wasn't even tough. Hell, when he did it, I was still, downwardly spiraling, you know?
They don't care if it's factual as long as it's interesting. And the stories line up close enough with the scars, better than telling them the truth, right?
I just think someone would do a single bit of research.
Well, let's just turn this off.
No.
Why not?
I'm watching it.
You're just bitching about it. If it bothers you so much, there's no point in subjecting yourself to it. Besides, you've seen it 1,000,000,000 times. You probably have it memorized by now, you narcissist.
She extended the remote toward the TV. I yanked it out of her hands telekinetically.
Hey, what's wrong with you? Give it back.
In a minute. We could turn off in a minute. I just wanted to see. She threw her stack of papers down and started clambering over me, reaching for the remote hovering above my head, just out of her reach, laughing like it was some flirtatious game as I craned my neck left and right to watch around her. Eventually, I grabbed her by the hips, physically moving her aside to prevent her from obstructing my sight. She laughed even harder, spun around to look at the TV.
Jaxon, are we...
At my favorite part of the show, that too familiar scene of me and Charlie embracing on the Detweiler Bridge popped onto the screen.
Right.
Caraway's arms dropped and she quickly climbed off of me, crestfallen, as I spun the remote around and switched it off. Maria, wait a minute.
Grace, you do have it memorized, don't you? I'm such an idiot.
She said, monotonously rubbing her temples. She started walking toward the stairs. Please don't go. I'm sorry. I got up to follow her, setting all my hovering organized stacks back on the floor. I just wanted to see her, that's all.
You know, maybe if I...
She exasperatedly shut her eyes, took a deep breath, let it go, clenching her extended finger back to her fist, literally biting her own tongue.
No, never mind. Good night, Jaxon. I assume you aren't sleeping here. Maybe I'll see you at work tomorrow.
What were you gonna say?
Forget it.
Why?
It was mean.
That's okay. Be mean. I think I kind of deserve it.
Kind of?
I do. I deserve it. Say what you wanted to say.
Jaxon, it's nothing. Good night.
She tried to storm up the stairs away from me, but I flew over the banister and cut her off. Maria, please say it.
No, because I don't want to hurt your feelings and then have you blame me for your next relapse.
Ouch. But good start. I'm not gonna do that. I can take it. I promise I'm not that fragile.
Oh, yeah? Did you get less fragile in the last 4 months or something? I must have missed it because I never speak to you.
She cringed right after she said it, and I smirked. See? Feels good to be mean, doesn't it?
It kinda does.
Let me have it, Maria. I'm asking you to. Come on. I think it'll be good for both of us if you stop holding back. Be honest with me. You started with, maybe if I...
Okay, well...
She anxiously rubbed her forearms, unaccustomed to being so patently cruel to anyone, least of all me.
I was gonna say that maybe if I put on a trench coat and boots and called you a dipshit, you'd actually pay attention to me for once.
That's not even mean.
Because it would probably actually work.
It would not.
Oh, right. More details. I'll cut off my pinkies, too. Then I'll scorch this arm and roll my eyes at everyone.
She hesitated, winced, and sighed.
No, wait, retract that. I don't want to be mean to Charlie. It's not her fault that you're an asshole. Plus, I always thought her whole thing was super rad.
Right, nothing about Charlie.
Oh, can I enforce that rule on you?
I smiled, lifted up my hand, and curled my fingers, beckoning her for more.
You realize you had sex with me more the first time we dated, before we got married. Then you have sense.
I do, yes.
But hell, all positive numbers are bigger than 0. In some cultures, our wedding doesn't even count yet.
I waited for her to continue on her own, but knew she was too sweet to do it. Maria, honestly, this is barely mean yet. Come on, keep going.
No, I can't. It's not helping. I can't do it. I don't want to be mean to you. For some stupid reason, I love you.
I love you too, Maria.
Right, okay.
She rolled her eyes, and she sat down on the stairs.
Now who's being mean?
I wanted to assure her, but knew it'd do no good, so I sat beside her. Same step, as she sighed again, pursing her lips and nodding.
It's my fault anyway.
It's not. Nothing is.
No, it is a little. You know, the only reason I came back at all was for Charlie. I thought I owed it to my friend to keep you in one piece and hold you together, and then when I found you, I hated you. I hated you. You spent 3 months just disappointing me and getting wasted and hurting Sydney and being a complete and total piece of shit. And then you sobered up, which was good, but instead of being drunk, you spent practically another month just puking and crying. It was like having a newborn. Do you know how many of my outfits you've ruined? Do you know how many of my favorite shirts I threw away because they all smell like your vomit? So yeah, it's a little my fault for falling in love with you again through all of that. In only 8 months, no less. There's gotta be something wrong with me if that whole display made me love you that quickly.
Guess I'm irresistibly charming.
I should have known what to expect with this marriage, too. I knew you still loved her. I'm at least partially a moron for saying yes when you asked me to marry you before you were ready. I got overly excited after 2 months of rickety, barfless borderline stability.
I think we both did. Yeah. We definitely rushed it. It was too soon. We had too high expectations. It could only have been disappointing.
Right. Disappointing. As demonstrated by you at the wedding itself.
That was the first time she ever addressed my behavior at the wedding directly. I wasn't sure how to approach replying to her, but she obviously regretted bringing it up and quickly changed the subject.
I was just so eager to get you back the way you were. I wanted to skip ahead, and I thought if we just got married, it would force it to be fixed or something. Does that make sense?
Tons of sense.
But no, that's not how it works. You can't just force it. We pushed too hard and probably made it worse, and stupid Peter, in his eagerness to broadcast the wedding, it all happened so quickly we never had time to figure out how reckless it was, how much we were overexerting. Honestly, we probably shouldn't even be married anymore, right?
No. I grabbed both of her hands and looked her dead in the eye. No, Maria. We got married too soon. That much is definitely true. We shouldn't have gotten married when we did, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be together. And none of this is your fault. It's all mine. But trust me when I tell you, I want to make this work. I want to be married to you, even if it doesn't seem like I do. I do. I really do. I'm still broken, I think. I'm not over Charlie. You're right. I'll never completely be over Charlie. So if you can't accept that and you want to get out, I won't stop you. I won't even blame you one bit, but just, I want you to know that the closer I get to piecing myself back together, the more I accept she's really gone, the closer I get to the point where I can make us work. And I desperately want to make you happy, Maria. I really do. I'm sorry that I coerced you into doing something stupid and emotional before it was the right time to do it, but I promise we can fix it from here if you want to try. We can at least try to get better.
How?
For starters, I'll sleep here tonight.
Jaxon, you don't have to.
I want to.
No, I know you can't sleep here. I don't want you to do it if you're just trying to make me feel better.
I gently grabbed her face and stared into her eyes. Tried to stop pretending they were the enormous icy blue ones I saw every night in my dreams, but even if it twisted my guts to be so deceitful and cruel, it was hard to say what I was about to say next without first pretending she was Charlie. I want to do it because it will make you feel better, Maria. I want to do it for you.
Really?
Yes.
You're sure?
Yes.
Okay.
She blushed and smiled.
Well, in that case, come on. I'll show you where our bed is, since you've literally never been in it.
It was a half-decent night, I think. We snuggled a little. She fell asleep with my arm around her, but nothing else happened. I still hadn't been intimate with anyone but Charlie since the day she died, which I counted as some sort of moral victory, even if I knew it was hurting Maria, and eventually I'd have to relent on it. Plus, I didn't sleep at all. I didn't even come close. Maybe once shut my eyes. It was still too hard for me to turn off my brain, but in spite of my exhaustion, I counted it as a good night because Maria was so bright and cheery the next morning. I knew that I was incapable of happiness anymore, but maybe I could find my way to accepting hers vicariously as my own. Maybe there was a way to make my worthless life worth a little bit of something to just this one person. I really truly think we would have made it there. Not right away, hell, not even soon. But eventually, I think I would have found a good life with her. She may have been happy. I may have approximated it. When I left her that morning for my meeting with President Prophet, both of us were filled with so much hope that we'd taken a good first step. We never had an opportunity to take the second. Because on that day, December 28th, an impossible miracle happened.
Thank you for listening to The Beam Chronicles, a fiction podcast written and produced by me, MJ Dooney. You can follow the show on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. If you want to email me, beamchronicles@gmail.com, and if you want to help me out, 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also send me monetary support if you're so inclined. buymeacoffee.com/beamchroniv, that's BEAMCHRONIV, or just click the support the show link in the description. I have nothing fancy to say today. I'm recording this very last minute. It kind of slipped my mind. All music and sound effects were sourced from the Epidemic Sound Library. Special thanks to Sergio Duarte for creating the cover art for the show. And thanks again for listening.